Are we in the early stages of a recession? How deep is global divergence with regard to the largest of economies? And how can the U.S. at this point look down the road and try to divine all the big stories? Brexit, flattening yield curve, oil prices, Germany, Italy, Japan, all have had quarters of negative GDP. Are these all the landmines of a global recession in front of us?
Yeah, picking up on your earlier comment today on volatility, these are the landmines. And the question is, are we going to hit these landmines or are we going to avoid them? And this is all back to uncertainty. We just don't know what the resolution of many of these events are. And therefore, the stock market has incredible volatility on a day-to-day basis. And I would say you put together a weaker stock market, a leading economic indicator starting to decline, which, again, we don't see that right now. And if you get the yield curve inverting between 10-year and 2 years, then those are the signs of recession. We don't have them yet, Rick, but the volatility in the market dictates we need to watch these elements.
You know, John, is it different this time? In other words, when I look at what's going on with Brexit, I'm a very hands-on person. I look at the FTSE, and they're actually down less than other global economies today. Flattening yield curve. Central banks have played a large part in the valuation of many of these interest rate levels. Oil prices down. Might be a big event with regard to how the market digested or didn't digest Iran oil waivers. Is it good to look at these issues in that light, or am I getting to a point where I'm making excuses for what's going on in the economy?
No, Rick, it is essential to look at these items in sequence and think about, okay, yes, it is different. The globalization of trade is under threat with respect to both Brexit and China. And again, the whole discussion on iPhones this morning with respect to China. The Fed's manipulation of short-term interest rates. Yes, the yield curve has a very, very different message today than it had in the 1970s and 1980s. So you have to say, yes, the messages we're getting are different today simply because OPEC is not as unified as it once was. The Fed and other central banks, including the ECB buying corporate bonds, does alter the yield curve.
And my final question to you is, John, if you take the notion that most likely we are in a period of volatility, but not at the precursors of a recession, as an investor, what advice would you give? Your final thoughts?
Well, if I'm sailing on Lake Michigan and I have a lot of storm clouds around me, I'm striking sail and heading to a safe harbor. And I think that's partly why, Rick, 10-year Treasury rates are below 3%.